If you can't control your emotional reactions, then you cannot hold a state. And if you can't hold a state, then nothing you want can manifest. This is where most people misunderstand manifestation, right? So they think it fails because they didn't visualize enough, or affirm enough, or believe hard enough. And that's not why it fails. It fails because the moment pressure shows up, they react. And reaction is proof the state was never settled. Guys, manifestation does not respond to how badly you want something. It responds to what you can remain when reality pushes back. If your emotions are leading you, then you're not creating, you're responding. And anything that controls you internally controls what shows up externally. This is why anxiety is so destructive to manifestation. Not because anxiety exists, but because people obey it. Anxiety says check again, reassure yourself, fix it, do something. And the moment you follow that impulse, you exit the state. A state that collapses under pressure was never assumed, it was only imagined. And that's why emotional control is not optional. It's the entry requirement. When something is truly assumed, you don't argue with reality about it, okay? You don't chase signs and you don't panic when things shift. You also don't need reassurance and you stay grounded where you stand. This is the exact moment most people lose what they're trying to manifest because assumption reorganizes reality. And reorganization doesn't look clean. Sometimes something is removed before the replacement arrives. Sometimes a door closes before another one is visible. Sometimes the structure collapses before the upgrade shows up. And that gap is where people break. They feel uncertainty and they react. They feel anxiety and they react. They move, they feel fear, and they abandon the position. If you react emotionally in that moment, you signal loss instead of certainty. If you lose a job and panic, you've told reality you don't have one. If a relationship ends and you spiral, you've told reality you're alone. If money tightens and you freak out, you've told reality you're unsafe. You live in a state of lack. You are not abundant. And none of that has anything to do with truth. It has everything to do with state collapse. Let's look at it this way, right? You wouldn't stop contractors halfway through a renovation because the kitchen looks worse before it looks better. But people do this internally all of the time. They interrupt the process with emotion. They treat discomfort as failure. They treat uncertainty as evidence. They treat anxiety as information about reality. But none of that is true. It just simply isn't. Emotional reactions don't prove awareness. They prove the state wasn't held. And that's why calm people get results faster. Not because they're lucky, not because they care less, but because their nervous system doesn't reset every time something moves. They don't abandon themselves at the first sign of pressure. Now, here's the part that most people tend to miss. Nothing that happens is good or bad on its own. It only feels that way based on the identity you're living in. When you live in the end, when you expect the best, like we talked about on Monday, events lose their emotional charge. They're just steps. That doesn't mean feelings won't arise, because they will. Anxiety most likely may spike, and fear may pass through. Guys, doubt may knock. But power is not the absence of those feelings. Power is refusing to let them decide who you are. When emotion spikes, you don't follow it, you don't obey it, you don't reorganize your behavior around it. You just simply return to state and ask one simple question. How would I handle this if this outcome were already secured? How would my desired self handle this? And from that position, reaction disappears. Not because you're passive, but because you're certain. Emotional control isn't suppression, it's self command. It's knowing who you are deeply enough that a feeling doesn't get a vote. And self command is what bends reality. Because once you are no longer shaken by appearances, there's nothing left for reality to resist. Power isn't loud, it doesn't argue, and it doesn't negotiate. It stays, and what stays internally must be reflected externally. And remember, this wizard believes in you